Hi, I'm Drew.
And I'm Sam.
And welcome to Drewling Samantics.
We are back! We're back, mate!
Hello.
Do I know you? Do I recognise you?
I don't know. Are you? I mean, yeah. What on earth?
Hang on. You're not that fucking Einstein off them adverts, are you?
Yeah.
I've got it out of the way early this season.
Get it out of the way. Let's sweep that out of the way.
I've sorted out all the people that have tuned in by accident that don't like swearing. They're now gone.
They're gone.
And all the long time listeners and viewers have gone, oh, well, it's been 15 seconds and he hasn't mentioned that he's been Einstein. So I've got in there and I've done it for you, man. It's brilliant. But anyway, should we backtrack a little bit and explain what the bloody hell's going on, who we are,
Backtrack.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, whoever you happen to be, wherever you happen to be, thank you so much for joining us. We are Drewling Samantics. My name is Sam. Good morning, good afternoon, hello, whatever time it happens to be.
And my name is Drew. Good morning. Welcome. If you're new, welcome. Thanks for joining us. If you're old listeners, favourite listeners, thanks for joining us again for Sam, our 12th season, mate.
It is our 12th season. I'm just going to pull you up on the fact that you call some of our listeners old. I think what you mean...
They're friends of mine. Leave them alone.
What you mean is long-standing. People that have been with us either from the start or certainly for a while. Those who have followed the Drewling Samantics journey for a while. And as Drew said, thank you so much for being here. If you are new, welcome. We're about to explain why you should stay. Which it could be a tough one, to be honest. But
well, it'll either take a long time or a short time. So.
Exactly that. No, as you said, 12th season, mate.
12 seasons.
12th. We what is it? Pre-teen, it's known as, right before you become a teenager.
I don't know. It's been too long ago to remember that, mate.
That is true. You were born when electricity wasn't invented, so it was.
Mate, when I was born, if you were pre-teen, they shoved you up a chimney. That's what they did.
Right, so who else can we offend early doors? So back to Victoria time. No, we, as said, are Drewling Samantics. We are a podcast all about the performance industry, being that we are both jobbing actors. We are not super famous, although, as I alluded to, one of us is on TV every 5 bloody seconds advertising smart energy meters.
Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they couldn't make this beautiful face old and wrinkly like they did with yours, could they?
Mate, it takes 3.5 hours. That's all I will say.
Yeah, they have to spend 3.5 hours making you look younger. That's the problem.
Oh, ow!
And there's another box ticked. The piss taking, the Mickey taking, the poking fun at one another, which is what we do most of the time.
Absolutely.
We'll stop going over sort of stuff that most people, we're guessing, know. If you are new, thank you so very much for joining us. As you go along, you'll understand what we're all about. We have a bit of banter, we chat about the industry, we meet some incredibly talented people, and overall, we just have a bit of a laugh. And something else we always have, Drew.
Yes.
Got it.
Have you got one?
Ta-da!
Ta-da.
Doesn't matter what time of day or year it is, I will always join Drewling Samantics with a rather large beer. So,
I usually have a little glass of a little mug of tea. Today, actually, special new coffee, new Colombian blend coffee, just for season 12. There we go. Well, not just for season 12, but yeah, started it.
I'm assuming you haven't bought enough just to make one cup. But anyway, cheers everyone listening and watching.
Cheers everyone.
But yeah, so I guess we kind of have to go. Where the bloody hell have we been, and what have we been doing, mate? Because that is the reason that we took. I want to say hiatus, but I'm not sure it's quite the right word. We took an extended pause.
A sabbatical.
Yeah, exactly that. For multiple reasons. Number one, because our brilliant Mr. Nick Bannister, affectionately known as Picnic, has moved on to pastures new, so he's no longer with us. So we've been working behind the scenes on replacing him. Nick, our illustrator that was, has now sadly moved on from Drewling Samantics, but he's doing amazing things, and we're so glad that we had him for the period of time we did.
Absolutely.
In that respect, things have changed. You will have noticed that is something we're not going to talk about just yet. You can continue to sort of make your own assumptions and work things out there. We know how clever you all are. You'll have worked it out already. But yes, that's all changed, and we will go into that more in the near future. So that was one of the reasons that we haven't been on the airwaves or on your screens if you're a YouTube watcher for, well, it's a good few weeks now.
A few weeks, mate.
There are other, perhaps more, I was going to say more important, not more important, but more prevalent reasons, maybe, Drew, which go ahead, feel free to explain.
Well, no. I mean, we have been working, sadly, not with each other, no. But anyone who was listening to and joined us for season 11 will remember that we had a couple of guests on, producers. We had the lovely Andy Linford and Sue Gilroy, both of whom we worked with. Well, Sam worked with Andy and I worked with Sue. Now, Sam, you were up and down the country, all over the place, not just in one show, but in two shows.
Well,
and not necessarily at the same time, but explain more.
Yeah, so technically I could say 3 shows, because actually when we met Andy, we'd just completed doing the UK and Ireland tour of the Doris Day musical.
That's right.
Which is where Andy and I became acquainted, became good friends. And from that, he then said, look, I'm also a producer, which if you want to find out more about that, because he's an enormously talented guy and just a lovely bloke, please do go back. Season 11, I can't remember which episode it was, but just look for Andy Linfield, give it a listen, give it a watch. He's brilliant. But he mentioned to me that he was producing shows in repertory theatre, where 2 shows basically run at the same time. And he happened to have a role that he thought I might be ideal for. Note that word there, ideal for.
Clever.
Yeah, it wasn't deliberate either. It just, I'm gonna steer into the skid, mate. Don't worry about that. And in the end, we talked, audition process, blah 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 blah. But it turned out that I was right for the role. So I ended up on tour for Andy's production company, Doctor Productions, superb theatre company, doing a 5-hander or 5-person tour for those not in the biz, going round all over the country. I mean, we went all the way down to Penzance, we went all the way up to Yorkshire, all over the place. Lots of stuff in Essex, around London, in the southwest, a bit in the north, all over the country, essentially, including actually all the way down to Deal, which is, I think, as far as you can go, or pretty much as close as you can go to France without leaving.
Before you fall in the sea, mate.
Yeah, basically. So we were doing 2 shows. Treasure Island, a 1-hour spectacular for the children, which was great when it was sunny. Didn't work quite so well being on a Treasure Island when the weather wasn't on our side. And also doing An Ideal Husband, which is a brilliant Oscar Wilde comedy. His kind of normal style, the upper classes poking fun at one another and themselves without really realising that they're poking fun at one another and themselves. And it was superb. But as you say, I was all over the place. So I think we did 60-odd shows in the space of about, I don't know how long, wow, maybe 8 weeks, something like that, if you take out the rehearsal period, which was at the start. It was, yeah, but feet didn't really touch the floor other than to get on a stage and recite some lines and bounce around a bit, depending on the characters. But it was brilliant. I loved every minute of it. Touring life is great. I mean, it's demanding. We were doing all the get-ins and get-outs, so setting up the stage, particularly as it was outdoor theatre. I
was just about to say, you're further than just touring. You were playing a lot of outdoor venues,
this is it. You? So I would say probably 85% of the shows were outdoors, at National Trust properties or in big open-air spaces, a few open-air theatres. Beautiful, beautiful places we got to perform. We're very lucky. And I can't believe I'm saying this, and we couldn't believe it throughout. We did not have a single show outside where it poured with rain. Not caveat that. We did once, and because of the setup of the theatre, we stayed nice and dry, audience soaked. So we were all right. But the weather wasn't great, obviously, through summer. It was very hit and miss. Some days it was super hot, which is almost as bad as it being wet and horrible and cold, as you well know from previous work you've done, and a lot of people that have done outdoor theatre will know. Because if you're wearing, I mean, Oscar Wilde-esque three-piece suits and very tight-fitting collars and bow ties and jackets and blazers and God knows what else, you can really, really overheat, and it can be quite demanding. But yeah, aside from one show where it rained on the audience and another couple where it rained before, so it was a bit muddy and the setup wasn't so fun, or the get-outs equally, putting stuff back in the van weren't so fun. We had the weather on our side.
Brilliant.
And yeah, it was an enormously enjoyable, exhilarating and rewarding experience. And now I'm bloody knackered. So that's partially the reason why we took a perhaps more extended break between the end of last season and the beginning of this one. Because normally we will carry on regardless. And when we're in digs doing shows or accommodation or whatever you want to call it, we will still carry on. But the nature of what I was doing, we would arrive maybe at our digs normally between 11 o'clock and midnight, having just done a get out, and then be up the next morning at 6-7 o'clock. So number one, I wasn't going to try and get Drew to stay up that late and record, because that was a bit mean. And two, I just didn't have the facility to do it. It just wasn't possible. So we made the executive decision between us, based on that and more, which you'll explain in a minute, that we were going to extend the break between seasons. And that suited you quite well, because you've been fairly busy as well, mate.
Well, yes. I mean, as I mentioned before, in season 11, we met Andy Linfield, and we also met Sue Gilroy, who I've worked with in the past. She's directed me in a couple of shows. She is an incredibly accomplished director, producer, and she's worked enormously backstage, as she explained. She knows every facet of the theatre. And if anyone was going to set up a new theatre company and do 3 shows in rep, down in Lyme Regis at the lovely Marine Theatre, if anyone was going to do it and do it well, it was Sue. And she very kindly asked me to be in the first show, Gaslight, which is a wonderful Victorian thriller, and where we get the phrase gaslighting from. Yeah. It's a very tense psychological thriller. And I played I played now both male roles in the show. It's interesting, because years ago I played Mr. Manningham, who is ostensibly the villain of the piece. And this summer I played Sergeant Ruff, who comes in and you don't quite know what he's up to at first, but then as it pans out, he rescues and solves the crime. Manningham is arrested. Spoiler alert. And the lady
for that now, mate. You're supposed to say spoiler alert before you give the.
Well, they know it's coming. They know it's coming. As soon as you sit down and watch Gaslight, you go, okay, when is he going to get nabbed? How are they going to prove it? We know it. And it's a great whodunit, because you sit there going, well, we know what's going on, but how the hell is this woman going to is she going to be helped? But the wonderful thing was and then that was followed by Taking Steps, and then Dial M for Murder in traditional weekly rep style. So we played for a week. Whilst we were playing in the evenings, the next show was being rehearsed, and then that was playing the following week. The next show was blah 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 blah. Yeah. It was the theatre hadn't had anything like a rep season there for many years. So we were garnering new audiences, and our audiences tripled, quadrupled through that first week, and continued through the rest of the season. It was, as you say, it was a beautiful hot summer. Lyme Regis is gorgeous. It was rammed with people. And the lovely thing about the Marine Theatre is you literally, our dressing room is on, you 40 yards, there's the sea. So you have, in one ear, you have the play playing on stage, and you'll sit in the dressing room. In the other ear, you can hear the tide coming in and people swimming and enjoying themselves. It's a lovely setting. But like yourself, Sam, there I was, in a 3-piece suit, wing collar shirt, bow tie, hat, scarf, coat for the first 5-10 minutes of the scene. And it's 29-30 degrees outside. So it was, I'd experienced my own little bit of joy there. There was one moment in the play that I really looked forward to, because I get to take jacket off and everything, roll my sleeves up. It was like, I can't wait for this, But it was lovely. It was great to be at the beginning of a new theatre company in a new venue with a new season.
Mm.
And I'm pleased to say Sue has been asked to produce some shows there next year as well. So they've asked her back. That has subsequently happened. So couldn't have done too badly.
No,
but after I did that, I came back. I was only there for 2 weeks. And also, podcasting would have been difficult because I did something that I really enjoyed. I was camping whilst doing the show. So I spent, if you're not watching, if you're not watching YouTube, Sam just grimaced and still is. I love camping and the weather was superb. And I don't rough it. I've got a lovely tent and I did it a few years ago on a long tour. I camped for about 3 months of the tour during the summer and I really enjoyed it. And I did it this time round and I found it very restful, very chilling. I've got all the equipment, so I ate well and, there's nowhere better.
I mean, mate, I would have found it chilling as well in a completely different way.
But no,
camping.
It's not. No, it is. I mean, it's one of those things that I've been in digs for years, and I love all the digs and Airbnbs and all that. But I thought I'm only there for 2 weeks, 12 days. I'm going to do this, and I loved it. I really enjoyed it. But came back from that, and I had another project, as everyone knows, or if you're joining, you don't know. My wife Verona and I, who has been a guest on the show, we work and put shows on a little venue in Bedfordshire called the Old Watermill, which is literally an old watermill. And so we did a summer. How did that? There was a Friday afternoon. What are we going to call this place? Oh, I don't know. There's a watermill. Oh, it's old. I got it. But brainstorming session. But we produced a summer panto, and we did it really quickly inside about 4 weeks. We did Red Riding Hood. And we did we did everything. We wrote the show. We did the costume designs. I built the sets. Verona arranged and wrote the music. It was great, and we got it together. And we had some fabulous audiences. We did 3 days, 4 shows a day, an hour-long show like yourself, Sam.
Yeah.
It was really good fun. We had 2 fabulous actors working with us. So that was my summer. Before I came back and joined my wonderful friend Sam here to podcast for you wonderful people. So that's
yes, exactly. So please don't think that we kind of went, we've done that season. Let's just kick our feet around a bit for a while and we'll come back to it when we feel like it. We have been flat out. But equally, every spare moment we've had that we've been able to use, we have been thinking very much about Drewling Samantics. We've been planning lots of things. We've been looking at what we've done previously, what we haven't done. We've been looking back through messages and recommendations, which, can I add, please keep them coming in. We love to hear from listeners and viewers about areas of the industry that perhaps we haven't talked about that you'd like to hear about. We can then get guests on, perhaps suggest us a guest. If you are a potential guest, get in contact and say, I want to be a guest. It's happened before, it'll happen again. And they've always been brilliant. So please do. But we've spent a lot of time making sure that this season 12 is going to be our best season yet. And number one, the guests we've got queued up, not that we haven't got room for more, as I say, but we have got some in the pipeline already who are unbelievable. So excited that these people are going to be joining us. So stay tuned because you will not want to miss them. Our first guest next week, mate,
I'm really looking forward to that. That's going to be
eye-opening and brilliant, super talented, knowledgeable, genuinely lovely. A typical Drewling Samantics guest, really.
What could we say?
Someone else to come on and make us look shit. But yeah, so we've got lots of great guests queued up. Equally, we're going to get out and about. We say this every season. We want to get out a bit more. We'll do what we can. But actually, we know for a fact it's happening because... Now, I'm going to confuse everyone, and I like to do this, Drew. At the point that you're watching or listening to us now, Drew and I work together. Not on the podcast, but in a show, which they tend to try and avoid putting us together on stuff. No idea why. Probably because we just talk. But when we're recording this, we haven't worked together on this particular job because we're recording in advance because we can't record right at the time because we're working together. But nevertheless, because see your face is
welcome to the Twilight Zone.
God knows what I've just said. Probably none of it made sense. Oh well, who cares? Essentially, what I'm trying to get across is the fact that we have been working together, or will be working together, and we're going to try and get some content done then, because it's been a long time since we've been able to bring you anything of us together in person working, rather than together podcasting. Obviously, we're over Zoom. Other video calling things are
basically what Sam Dunning is trying to say is we're going to be in the same room doing the same show at the same time with a camera and with a microphone. So we'll film something for you and put it on the podcast. There exactly we are. They call me old and confused, but there he is sitting over there, young, confused, and babbling like an idiot. But we got there in the end.
Stop listening after young, mate. That's all I needed to hear. But yes, so we've got some other things planned where we're going to get out and about as well. Some really cool stuff to kind of show you if you're on YouTube, or to talk about if you're listening to us. Now, not only that, but we are going to continue to do what we've done every season, which is bring you updates on the industry that, well, I was going to say that we all know and love. Assuming so, if you're tuning in, you must have some sort of interest in this industry, whether you be part of it as a performer or more as an audience participant, or whatever your interest is in the performance world. We will bring up-to-date news on everything going on in the world of theatre, film, modelling, voiceover, anything else you want to add into that.
And backstage, front stage, in front of the camera, behind the camera, we're going to try and get it to you.
Exactly that. So we're going to keep that information coming. Equally, we're going to look at sort of the big news articles, not just the stuff that is sort of close to home, but stuff that's going on that might affect us, what's happening to some of the biggest names in the industry. There'll obviously be award ceremonies that we will delve into as well. So yeah, we've got a lot to sort of go into.
Yeah,
a lot of stuff coming up.
We have. Yeah, that we should as well say that as well as bringing you good stuff, we do occasionally mention people that we've sadly lost in the business, and it would be remiss now, as we're playing catch up a little bit, not to mention some biggies that have left us a little while ago from all those industries. Well, not from some of those industries. I mean, the wonderful, the great Dame Maggie Smith, who is probably one of the finest stage and film actors of recent years, of many years, a 50-year long career. Yeah, that is amazing. And as well, film, and you mentioned voiceover, probably one of the most, I know it's a bandied about word, but one of the most legendary and iconic voices was James Earl Jones, who probably was well known as one of the greatest villains ever, and still is. But you never saw his face. That voice, that gem of a voice, captivated many people. And now, as you know, Sam, I have never seen the Star Wars.
No, somehow in your 800 years on this planet, you've avoided watching any Star Wars movies, which
I will. I promise you, I will rectify that within the realms of Drewling Samantics. I will rectify it and see what what I've heard, what the fuss is about, and of course, we all know an incredible actor, and sadly, we he will speak no more, but he will live on in that that iconic role.
Well, I mean, also speak no more. Sorry to interrupt you, but actually, I believe that he does still beyond the grave, slightly strange, but does still make cameos in sort of the newer stuff, anything that has Darth Vader involved in it. Because I think he had an agreement with Disney before he sadly passed that he signed over rights to use his voice as that character. Which, is something interesting that we can go into in a future episode and talk about. We've talked about artificial intelligence and how technology affects our industry in the past, but it's something to look further into because it is becoming more and more involved. I guess it's a much bigger part of the industry, capturing things and then being able to reuse them. Now, in his instance, I believe it was all agreed and it's all sort of above board and whatever. But there are
he basically bequeathed his voice to the world. Because with AI, they will continue to produce. That's quite incredible, isn't it?
It is.
Because it's such an iconic voice. Even someone who doesn't know the franchise, but I mean, I'm aware. Who isn't? of that amazing. So that's quite, yeah, we must delve into that, because
Yeah,
I wonder if,
rather than sort of because I'm piecing together little bits of information now, I'd much rather I'll do some proper looking into
yeah,
just how it all went together and agreements and things, because I think it's a massively interesting part of the industry in that it can be positive, it can be negative, but we won't go that route just yet. We'll stick to
we must investigate that, because that's very interesting that you say that he has, yeah, that he will live on and be and still recreate, even though not in the room, for want of a better phrase. But someone else who's left us and literally left a legacy is the songwriter Chris Christopherson, and of course, wonderful film actor. There are some amazing songs. Help Me Make It Through the Night, Bobby McGee. I mean, they're great. And he what was it? Barbara Streisand, A Star Is Born. I mean, fabulous film that they did another, the remake of, which was an equally good film.
Yeah.
But I mean, what a songwriter. I mean, I think it was, Johnny Cash and people, said he's probably one of the greatest country and western songwriters of all time.
He's an icon, a legend within that genre, as well as in his own right. I think what he did for country music perhaps was something that changed it within the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was an amazing man as well. I mean, I think he'd been a captain in the military. He was I think it was a Rhodes Scholar, incredibly intelligent man. And he sort of kicked about, and I think it was Johnny Cash at one of the big Nashville, and he was very shy and he couldn't perform. But apparently, Johnny Cash got him on stage, and he became the hit of the whole festival. He was, and from then on, well, as they say, the rest is history.
Yes.
But,
Hi everyone, it's Sam here. Apologies for the interruption, but I just wanted to jump in briefly to add something to this episode. Now, Drew and I have talked previously about how there will be rare occasions where something will happen in the industry between us recording an episode and it actually going public. When those times do happen, we do our very best to add in something to reference it, particularly if it's something that we feel we really need to discuss. Our recording schedule doesn't allow us, sadly, to be able to record and release episodes on the same day, and obviously post-production and the editing process take time as well. So although it doesn't happen very often, there will be, as I say, rare occasions where we do need to do something like I'm doing now. And this one is particularly sad because we've just heard the terrible news that Liam Payne, ex-member of boy band One Direction, has sadly passed away at the age of just 31. Now, One Direction can only be described as a phenomenon, really, to take over the world in the way they did and to impact so many people. They were the biggest boy band in the world for a good 5 to 10 year period, probably only equalled in their impact by the Beatles. And we know from some of the information given that it was a tragic accident that caused his life to abruptly come to an end, and that he had suffered with personal issues which could well have contributed. We don't know the actual meaning or the cause. We don't have that information at the moment. But what we do know is this is a terrible, terrible loss to the industry. A very, very talented young man has been taken far too soon. So we send our condolences, our thoughts and love to his friends and family, and to everyone who has been affected by this, not just within the industry, but in the general public as well. Anyway, back to Drew and Sam on the episode. Thank you.
On a personal note, if you wouldn't mind, Sam, there's two people that, the two friends, two great gifts to the industry that have passed away. A wonderful, wonderful lady, Kay Carmen Nuttall, who was a fantastic performer and singer with her husband many years ago, but she never stopped. She never retired. She carried on performing. She had a wonderful, wonderful legacy of charity work. She was president of the CAA, was the Concert Artists Association, now the Club for Artists and Actors in the West End. I am a member, which is where I had the honour of meeting her. Wonderful charity work. She worked with the Lady Rattlings, Brinsworth House, which is a retirement home for actors and performers. An amazing lady, always smiling, indefatigable, as they say. She wouldn't stop. And just a joy to know, and she is no more. But she's left a legacy of charitable works that she's done. And a lot of people that will be very grateful for her hard work and her performances.
Hers is a name I'm familiar with. I never had the honour of meeting her or working with her, but certainly it's a resounding name in the industry. Someone
absolutely
who's hugely respected and adored.
And another name that, and I had the honour of meeting her. I never worked with, but Nigel Ellicott, who passed away only a couple of days ago. Probably one of our greatest dames. I mean, he was 50 years in panto, never missed a year. He was a very quiet, gently brilliant man. His partner, Andrew Ryan, another brilliant dame and fabulous actor I've had the pleasure of working with. I met Nigel Ellicott on my first panto back in 1982. There you go.
I wasn't born.
There you go. On my first panto, I played Cat in Dick Whittington, directed by Vivian Ellicott, Nigel Ellicott's brother. And I met Nigel, and Nigel was great. He was very knowledgeable, had tremendous energy, helped me with because I didn't know really anything about panto, and I had 30 years in panto after that, thanks to his guidance. So he will be sadly missed. He celebrated 50 years in panto, so what an amazing milestone. So to all of those, to Kay and to Nigel, Maggie Smith, James L. Jones, Chris Christopherson, sadly, there will be many more on the way, but we will do as we've done before, honour them, and as always, raise a glass in their honour.
Indeed. And equally, we've been off the air for a fair while. And there will be so many names that we could be mentioning now. But rather than list them off and not do them justice by delving into each of them, what we did was we mentioned the few most recent and the biggest ones in the news at the time or at the near time. Yeah. But there are so many others who sadly were lost over the period that we've not been broadcasting or creating content. And we equally raise a glass to each and every one of them and send love to all their families. Every loss in the industry has felt really hard because everyone brought something different and something individual to it, as does every single individual across every industry. And obviously the world is not the nicest place at the moment, and there is a lot of sadness and a lot of suffering. And we hope that by recognising people when we can, we're bringing a little bit of light and just remembering them in the right way. So yes, a huge thank you to each and every one of them. And as Drew said, we'll continue to sort of mention people as this happens because we like to honour those that have brought enjoyment and happiness to the world in their own individual ways. So we will continue to do that.
Lives to be celebrated, not to be mourned, I think.
Exactly that. Speaking of celebrating.
Yes, what?
We're on season 12, Drew. I think that's a bloody good achievement, if you don't mind me saying.
Well, as you mentioned before, I mean, we've tried to keep this going and tried to, yes, we've had to take forced gaps for work. And that's kind of why if for anybody who's joining us new, we started during the period of which we refer to as the unwelcome guest lockdown. And that kept us sane. And we met people who were dealing with that, like everyone. It wasn't just, we're not weeping and saying, oh, poor artists and actors. But, we were suffering, and it was very difficult because, they closed everywhere. There was nowhere for anyone to work, and least of all, people in the arts. But there was an awful lot of stuff going out. We've mentioned all the companies, all the streaming companies, television, film, radio, books. They are all within the arts. And we recognized that, Sam and I, we had a moan. and we will continue to have a moan. I will continue to stand on my little creaky soapbox from time to time. But we started this, and I met someone. I worked with someone in the summer. Neil James, who's a great actor, great fun, and he's just picked up the podcast. He's just started to listen to us.
Yes.
From season 1. I think he's on season 2, 2.5, something like that now. But he said it's interesting. He said, well, 2 seasons and 6 episodes, something like that. But he said it's interesting. He said, because what we've become, he said, of that time, if you go back and listen to that, and all our episodes are of course, archived, he said, it became a little bit of social history and a little bit of, I know, it sounds grand, but yeah, I went back and listened to them, to hear how much better we are now, but also
don't say that, people won't want to go back.
Well, no, but I mean, we're on top of it now. We're a little bit more smooth. But if you go back into it, but it was in the middle of one of if not the most biggest news items and life-changing social events, that sounds, but that pandemic changed lives, ended lives, changed careers, everything. And we started this as a comment on our industry in the middle of that. And Neil said, it is actually a little bit of social history.
Wow.
So he said, you guys have documented a little bit of the industry in that period. So he said, it's really interesting to listen to. So it's like, thank you very much. So that's a plug. That's a plug for all our earliest episodes and seasons. Go back and listen to them.
Yeah. So basically, listen to this one. Anyone new? Hello, welcome. Hope you've enjoyed. If you have enjoyed, go back and listen to 11 seasons of content in the next 6 days before we do another one of these. There's your challenge.
There's your challenge.
I wonder if that's actually doable. What's that?
If anyone's going to do the maths, you will do the maths.
There's 165 episodes if you don't include this one. And they're on average about 45 minutes. So that's about 140 hours. I think it's if you do not stop between the time this finishes and we start, I think you just about would manage to listen to every bit. I mean, I tell you what, I promise you this. I will look this up, and not next week because we've got a brilliant guest on next week. But the week after that, I'll come back and tell you exactly how much listening people will have had to do and whether they could have fitted it in to 6 days.
Wow.
There we go. There's a promise. What a weird one. But if there's any reason to come back and listen next week for our brilliant first guest of season 12 and to the week after that, there it is.
I tell you what, mate, I'm coming back just for that. I mean, I don't sod anything else. I want to know that fact. That's a brilliant fact.
You know what will happen? I'll forget. So, but on that note, mate, it is unbelievably brilliant to see you. It's wonderful to be back. Thank you, everyone, tuning in, whether you're listening or watching, whether it's the minute the episode comes out, whether we're 10 years in the future, whether you're in the UK where we are or anywhere across the globe. Thank you so much. Keep tuning in. Drewling Samantics will be back next week with a guest, and I cannot wait.
It's going to be a good one. Sam, I look forward to chatting to you, chatting to all our guests and our listeners, and we'll see you very soon, everyone.
Cheers, everyone. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks again for watching this episode of Drewling Samantics.
Please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video.
Don't forget, we're also available as audio only. Just search Drewling Samantics in any good podcast app. And please support us on social media. All our links and handles are on screen now.
We love welcoming new followers and subscribers, so why not share with your family and friends so they can join in too? Thanks very much. See you next time.